The Grand Hall of the United Earth Assembly was silent. Delegates from every nation sat in their seats, waiting for the alien envoy to arrive. They had seen many alien visitors before: traders, explorers, even military observers. But this one was different. She was not just an alien. She was a high-ranking diplomat from one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. When the doors opened, a tall figure stepped inside. Her skin shimmered with metallic blue patterns that shifted like liquid light. Her eyes glowed faintly, scanning the humans with disdain. Every movement of hers was deliberate, graceful, and heavy with pride. She wore armor-like robes decorated with symbols of her empire's power. She did not bow. She did not even nod. Instead, she raised her chin and looked across the room as if she were standing in front of lesser creatures. "Humans," she said, her voice sharp and cold. "I expected to see primitive tribes, but I find you in suits and ties, pretending to be civilized. Do you think these costumes make you equal to us?" Murmurs filled the room. Some diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Others lowered their eyes. Her arrogance was crushing, and her words cut through the assembly like blades at the edge of the hall. One human remained still. He was not dressed in glittering clothes, nor did he wear the proud medals of generals. He wore a simple uniform, his posture calm but firm. His eyes did not waver as the alien diplomat insulted his people. He watched her carefully, studying her arrogance the way a hunter studies prey. The alien diplomat continued, pacing slowly across the hall. "Your planet is a death world," she sneered. "A rock where weak species should have perished long ago. Yet somehow you survived. Not through strength, not through brilliance. You survived through luck. And now you crawl to the stars, thinking yourselves powerful." Every word was meant to break human confidence. She smiled slightly as she saw fear and uncertainty spreading across the room, but the human in the uniform did not look away. His silence was louder than her insults. He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table, and smiled, a small, knowing smile that caught her attention. Their eyes locked. For the first time in her speech, the diplomat hesitated. His expression did not show anger, nor did it show submission. It showed patience. It showed confidence. It showed something she could not quite name. "Tell me," she finally said, turning directly toward him, "do you not feel insulted by my words? Or have humans grown so used to being looked down upon that you accept it without protest?" The hall fell silent again. All eyes turned to the human. He stood slowly, his movements calm, deliberate. His voice, when he spoke, was firm, but not loud. "You call our world a death world," he said. "You are right. It is dangerous. The storms, the beasts, the diseases, the disasters, they tried to kill us every day. And yet we survived. Not by luck, by strength, by will, by refusing to die when everything told us we should." He stepped closer to her, his eyes locked on hers. "You see arrogance as power. We see survival as strength. You think we are weak because we do not flaunt it with glowing armor or grand titles. But our strength is quiet, and it is real." A ripple of energy moved through the hall. The other human delegates straightened in their seats, emboldened by his words. Even some alien observers shifted uncomfortably. The diplomat's smile faded. For the first time, she felt a flicker of annoyance. This human was not supposed to speak back. He was supposed to cower. "You have courage," she admitted with a slight hiss. "But courage without power is nothing more than a child's game." She leaned close, her eyes glowing brighter. "Do not mistake survival for greatness. You are insects beneath the stars, and insects can be crushed." The human did not flinch. He simply tilted his head, as if studying her the way she thought she was studying him. Then, slowly, he smiled again. "Insects?" he said softly. "Perhaps. But insects have a way of surviving things much larger than themselves. You should remember that. The hall held its breath. No one dared to move. The clash between them was silent, but it carried more weight than any war. The alien diplomat turned away sharply, her robes swirling behind her. "We shall see," she said coldly. "We shall see how long your fragile race can resist when true power comes knocking." She left the hall with her head high, her arrogance unshaken on the surface. But deep inside, a seed of irritation had been planted. She could not stop thinking about the human who had dared to answer her with such calm defiance. As for the human, he sat back down, his expression unreadable. But inside, he knew something important had just happened. He had seen her pride, her vanity, and beneath it all, he had glimpsed a crack of weakness. He did not yet know how he would use it. But one thing was certain: the galaxy's most arrogant diplomat had just met her match. And this was only the beginning. The following evening, the alien diplomat demanded a private meeting. She claimed it was to discuss trade routes and political arrangements, but everyone in the Earth Assembly knew better. Her pride had been scratched, and she wanted to remind the humans of their place. The chamber chosen was smaller, dimly lit, with a high ceiling and walls covered in screens showing stars and shifting galactic maps. Guards were dismissed at her command, leaving only her and one human across the table, the same man who had dared to challenge her. Arrogance, she circled him like a predator, her glowing robes brushing the polished floor. Her eyes never left his face. "You are bold," she said, her voice low. "Bolder than the others. You speak as if your people matter. But you know the truth, don't you? You know that in the grand theater of the galaxy, humans are nothing." The man leaned back in his chair, calm as ever. "If we are nothing, then why are you here, wasting your time speaking to us?" The words struck harder than any blade. Her eyes narrowed. She moved closer, standing directly in front of him. She was taller, stronger, wrapped in the authority of her empire. Yet something in his tone unsettled her. "You think survival is power," she whispered, her voice dripping with contempt. "But survival breeds desperation. It makes you reckless. You'll do anything, won't you? Even betray yourself, just to prove you belong in the stars." He met her gaze without fear. "Maybe desperation is power. Maybe that's what you don't understand. Desperate creatures don't quit. Desperate creatures fight until the universe has no choice but to recognize them." Her lips curled into a thin smile, but it was not one of amusement. It was the kind of smile a predator gives when prey refuses to run. "You test me," she said softly. "No one tests me." Suddenly she leaned down, so close that the faint glow of her skin reflected in his eyes. Her voice was almost a hiss. "Do you know what happens when a diplomat of my rank is disrespected? Armies march. Worlds burn. Civilizations vanish. Your defiance, human, could cost your planet more than you can imagine." The man's heart raced, but he did not let it show. Instead, he leaned forward too, his voice steady. "Maybe, but sometimes one spark is enough to light a fire. And sometimes arrogance blinds those who believe they cannot be burned." For a long moment, their eyes locked, neither blinking. The room seemed to shrink, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Then, to his surprise, the alien diplomat laughed. It was not a warm laugh, it was sharp, edged with fury, but beneath it, there was something else. Curiosity. "You are reckless," she said finally. "Reckless. And dangerous. I see now why your kind survived on that cursed planet of yours. You are too stubborn to die." She circled him again, slower this time, as if studying him not as prey, but as a puzzle. "Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps there is more to humans than mud and blood." The man stayed silent, letting her words hang in the air. He knew she was testing him, searching for weakness, for a crack she could exploit. But he also knew something she did not. Arrogance makes even the strongest blind, And in that silence, something shifted. Not respect, not trust, but an awareness. A dangerous recognition between predator and challenger. The meeting ended without treaties, without agreements, without even a polite farewell. She swept out of the chamber with fire in her eyes, leaving the man behind. But as the doors closed, he allowed himself a quiet thought. She was furious, yes, but she was also intrigued. And intrigue was a weapon more powerful than any fleet. Outside the chamber, alien aides whispered about her expression. They had seen her angry before, but this was different. This was personal. And for the human, that was exactly what he wanted. This was no longer about politics, no longer about speeches. This was about pride, revenge, and a dangerous game that neither of them fully understood yet. A game that would change everything. Days passed after the private meeting, yet the memory of it lingered in the minds of both. The alien diplomat returned to her quarters in the orbiting embassy ship, furious at herself for even acknowledging the human's words. She replayed the conversation again and again, and each time, her pride stung sharper. But hidden beneath the anger was something she refused to admit: curiosity. She had met countless rivals, from generals of other empires to assassins who tried to silence her. None had spoken to her as that human did. None had dared to defy her without trembling, and worse, when she looked at him, she had felt something strange. Something she had never felt among her own kind. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human went about his duties calmly, but he too could not erase her image from his mind. The way her eyes glowed, the way her voice carried both venom and pride, it was unforgettable. He knew she was dangerous, but he also knew danger could be useful. Every arrogant opponent had a weakness, and every weakness could be turned into an advantage. The universe, however, had plans of its own. One night, the diplomat left her ship secretly, traveling down to the surface of Earth without her guards. Disguised, she moved through the city, her robe altered to hide her alien features as best as possible. She told herself it was research, an effort to understand the Deathworlders. But deep inside, she knew the truth. She was searching for him. She found him not in a grand hall or military base, but in a simple street-side market. He was speaking with vendors, laughing quietly, buying food like an ordinary man. There was no armor, no soldiers, no banners of power, just a human living as humans lived. And something inside her cracked. How could a being so ordinary stand against her so fearlessly? How could he, without wealth or cosmic authority, command such presence? She stepped closer, her disguise still holding. He noticed her before she spoke, his eyes narrowing slightly as if he already knew. "You shouldn't be here," he said calmly. Her lips curved. "And yet I am." For the first time, their conversation was not inside a hall of politics or a chamber of threats. It was in the heart of a city, among people who didn't even realize the galaxy's most dangerous diplomat walked past them. They walked together through the crowded market. She asked questions she would never dare in public. About human food. About human families. About why they laughed even in hardship. Each answer unsettled her pride. Each glimpse into his world made her see something she had never seen in her empire. "You are reckless," she said finally, her voice lower now. "Reckless, but strangely alive. My people would never waste time in places like this." He smirked. "That's why your people are always calculating, always cold. You think living is about control. We think living is about surviving and still finding joy." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Not hostile, but heavy. A silence filled with questions neither dared to ask. Then, without warning, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A hovercraft lost control, smashing into a stall. Flames burst out, people screamed, chaos spread. Instinctively, the human rushed forward, pulling a child out of danger. He shielded others, barking orders, moving with precision born from experience. The diplomat stood frozen for a heartbeat. Then something unexpected drove her to act. She used her strength, lifting debris with one hand, shielding humans with her glowing arms. For the first time, she was not the arrogant envoy of a great empire. She was simply helping. When the flames settled, the people thanked him. And though they looked at her with fear, they whispered thanks too. She had never received thanks before. Not from commoners. Not like this. As the crowd dispersed, she turned to the human. Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. Why do they thank you? You risked your life for strangers. They are not your blood. They are not your people. He looked at her, tired but calm. That's what it means to be human. We fight for each other. Even for strangers. Even when it makes no sense. Her chest tightened, a sensation she could not name. Anger, confusion, and something else. Something terrifying, because for the first time, she was beginning to understand what made humans dangerous. And for the first time, she was beginning to see him not as prey, not as an enemy, but as something far more dangerous to her pride. A bond she could not control. Weeks passed since the night in the market. The alien diplomat had tried to bury the memory, telling herself it was meaningless. Yet, every time she closed her eyes, she saw him standing in the flames, protecting strangers, looking at her with that calm defiance. But then something happened that shattered her composure completely. Inside her embassy ship, she began to feel strange changes. Her energy levels shifted. Her body no longer obeyed her discipline. She dismissed it at first, thinking it was Earth's atmosphere or food. But the truth grew undeniable. One morning, she stood before the mirror of her private chamber, staring at the glowing patterns across her skin. They pulsed differently now, with a rhythm she had never seen before. The healers she summoned confirmed it with quiet voices. She was carrying life. She was pregnant, for the first time in decades. Her hands trembled. It was unthinkable, unacceptable, impossible. A diplomat of her rank, the pride of her empire, bonded with a human? The humiliation was unbearable. Her rage echoed through the ship as she shattered furniture, tore down curtains, and dismissed her staff in fury. This cannot be. She screamed. A human? A death-world insect? But no denial could erase the truth. The child was real. Her fury burned hotter when she realized what it meant politically. If the Interstellar Council discovered this, her enemies would laugh. Rivals would use it as a weapon. She, who once called humans insects, would be known as the one who carried their blood inside her. She could already hear the whispers. The arrogant envoy brought low. The untouchable diplomat, touched by a human. Her chest heaved with rage and humiliation. But beneath it all, deep where she dared not look, there was also fear. Fear of what the child might mean. Fear of what he might do if he found out. She summoned him secretly, disguising it as a private diplomatic summons. When he entered her chamber, his calm eyes met hers as always. But this time, her fury was almost unbearable. You, she hissed, pacing back and forth like a caged predator. Do you know what you have done? Do you understand the disgrace you have brought upon me? He tilted his head slightly, studying her. Disgrace? He said softly. Or proof? Her eyes burned with fire. Do not play with words. I carry your seed, human. Do you realize what this means? If my empire learns of this, my position is ruined. My name destroyed. My enemies will devour me alive. He did not flinch. He simply folded his arms, his voice calm. So the galaxy's most powerful diplomat is afraid. Not of war, not of rivals, but of a child. The words struck her harder than she expected. She wanted to slap him, to silence him, to crush him where he stood. But she couldn't, because deep down, she knew his words were true. Her fury twisted with something else, a dangerous mix of shame. fear, and an emotion she hated to admit. You think this child is your victory? She spat. You think this is your revenge? I will never allow you to claim this. But he only looked at her, unshaken. Revenge? No, this isn't revenge. This is truth. No matter what you say, no matter how much you deny it, the child exists. And the galaxy will have to face it. So will you. Her fists clenched, her chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. For the first time, she felt cornered. Not by armies, not by politics, but by fate. Her voice dropped to a whisper, trembling with fury. You have no idea what storm you've created, human. You have no idea what fury you've unleashed. He stepped closer, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade. Maybe, but storms can't be controlled forever. Sometimes they change the sky. Their eyes locked again, the air between them heavy with tension. For her, it was the greatest insult and the greatest fear of her life. For him, it was the opening of a dangerous path he had only begun to walk, and somewhere in the shadows of her pride, in the silence behind her rage, she felt something she hated even more than fear. She felt destiny pressing down on her shoulders. The shocking truth was no longer hidden, and nothing would ever be the same again. News traveled faster than light. Despite her best efforts to keep it hidden, whispers spread through the alien envoy's staff. Servants carried rumors in hushed voices, guards exchanged uncertain glances, and soon the gossip reached the ears of rival diplomats in the orbiting council stations. The arrogant envoy, the voice of her empire, the untouchable figure who scorned humans, was carrying something that could ruin her forever. The child of a human dot inside the diplomatic chambers, tension thickened like smoke. Her rivals sharpened their smiles, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Every greeting carried hidden laughter. Every council session was laced with veiled insults. A death-world insect leaves its mark, they whispered in their own tongues. The diplomat, usually proud and untouchable, felt the ground shift beneath her. Rage boiled inside her veins, but it was not enough to silence the whispers. For the first time in her long career, she was on the defensive, and yet, the human remained calm. While alien factions debated and mocked, he did not boast or spread his influence. He simply watched, patient as a hunter. His silence was not weakness, it was power. The more he refused to react, the more others began to wonder. If this human did not fear her empire, perhaps they should not either. The power dynamic shifted quietly, almost invisibly. In one council meeting, she tried to reassert control. She stood tall, her glowing skin burning with authority, her voice sharp as thunder. Humans are reckless creatures. They survive like weeds in a garden, and this incident proves nothing. But then the human rose to speak. He did not shout. He did not insult. His words were simple, but they carried weight. You call us weeds, he said. But weeds grow where nothing else survives. And sometimes they crack stone. The room fell silent. For once, alien delegates did not laugh. Some even leaned forward, curious. The very insult she had used for months had been twisted into strength. And now it was she who looked rattled. Her hands clenched at her side, hidden beneath her robe. That night, she stormed back to her quarters, her fury shaking the walls. You turn my words against me. She shouted at him when she summoned him privately. You twist every insult into glory. How dare you stand equal to me in front of the council? He met her fury with quiet defiance. I don't need to twist your words. You do it yourself. Every time you try to humiliate us, you remind others that humans still stand. And that frightens them more than you realize. She glared at him, chest heaving. You think you hold power over me because of this child? Because of these rumors? Do not fool yourself. I could end you with a single command. But even as she said it, she felt the hollowness of her threat. If she silenced him, if she destroyed him, the galaxy would know it was because she feared him. And fear was a weakness she could not afford. The human stepped closer, his voice quiet but sharp. You don't have to fear me. You should fear what I represent. Humans don't bend easily. We don't break when told to. You thought this child would ruin you, but maybe it proves something bigger, that humanity is not beneath the stars. Humanity belongs among them. She turned away, trembling with rage. But the truth gnawed at her pride. Every word he spoke made sense, even as it burned her. In that moment, she realized the most terrifying truth of all. The power was no longer fully hers. She, who had once towered over humans, now found herself locked in a balance she could not tip. Every time she tried to crush him, he stood taller. Every insult she threw only gave him new strength. The power she once wielded so effortlessly had begun to slip from her grasp. And deep inside, she hated him for it. But deeper still, she feared she needed him. The alien diplomat sat alone in her private chamber, her hands pressed tightly against the polished surface of her desk. For the first time in her career, silence felt heavier than war. No council debates, no battles of words, just the steady, traitorous rhythm of life growing inside her. Her glowing skin pulsed with strange patterns she could not hide anymore. Even her closest aides pretended not to see, but their eyes betrayed them. They knew. And knowledge was poison in politics. She hated herself for it. How could a proud envoy of the Empire, the very symbol of alien superiority, carry something as shameful as a hybrid child? Her pride screamed at her to deny it, to tear it out, to erase the weakness before it consumed her. Yet each time she tried to summon that cold ruthlessness, she remembered that night in the market. The fire, the human saving strangers without hesitation. His voice when he said, "That's what it means to be human." And against her will, the memory softened her rage. She slammed her fist on the table, cracks running across its smooth surface. "No," she hissed to herself. "This is not weakness. I cannot allow it to be weakness." But another voice whispered inside her, quieter, softer, more dangerous. What if it is not weakness at all? Meanwhile, the human moved through the embassy halls with the same calm as always. Other aliens avoided him, unsure whether to treat him as prey or predator. His very presence unsettled them, as if he carried something invisible yet undeniable. One evening, she summoned him again. This time not with fury, not with threats, but with confusion she could not hide. When he entered, she did not pace like a predator. She sat, shoulders tense, eyes burning but uncertain. "You ruin me," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "Do you understand? My enemies circle me like vultures. My empire whispers of removing me. All because of you." He studied her for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Not because of me. Because of what you refuse to see. They don't fear me. They fear change. And change always begins with something no one expects." Her chest tightened. His words struck deeper than she wanted. She stood, her eyes glowing fiercely. "You speak of change as if it is simple. But do you know what change costs, human? Blood, civilizations, entire worlds." He did not flinch. "Do you know what the cost of no change is? Extinction." For a moment, silence stretched between them. But it was not like the silences before. This one was heavy, fragile, charged with something unspoken. She turned away, gripping the edge of the desk so tightly her claws left marks. "I should hate you," she whispered. "I should destroy you where you stand." "And yet," he said calmly, "you called me here." Her breath caught in her throat. She hated how true it was. Every instinct of her species screamed for dominance, for control. But here she was, confiding in the one she should despise. Her fury, her pride, her fear, they had all twisted into something she could no longer name. And it terrified her. Late that night, She stood before the wide embassy window, staring out at Earth below. The death world she once mocked now seemed alive in ways she could not deny. Storms swirling with beauty, oceans raging with strength, cities glowing with defiance against the dark. She whispered to herself, "Perhaps this is why they survive." But as dawn broke across the planet, her pride rose again. She clenched her fists, her voice hardening. "No, I cannot yield. I will not bow to him. To humans. To anyone." And yet, the truth remained. The more she tried to push him away, the closer she felt drawn. The envoy of an empire was no longer certain of her path. She stood at the edge of two futures, one where she clung to her pride, and another where she risked everything for something she did not yet understand. For the first time in her life, the most arrogant diplomat in the galaxy was truly trapped. Not by enemies, not by war, but by her own heart. The great council chamber was filled with voices, each delegate eager to witness the downfall of the once proud alien envoy. Whispers rippled like a storm. The arrogant diplomat has been tainted. The human has broken her pride. The empire will strip her rank. She entered the chamber draped in her shimmering robes, chin held high, glowing patterns across her skin betraying the truth she could no longer hide. Her enemies smirked, waiting for her collapse. Her allies stood silent, ashamed. And then behind her, the human stepped forward. The murmurs grew louder, a wave of disbelief crashing over the room. What was a single human one from a death world doing at the center of the galaxy's most powerful stage? The council demanded answers. "Envoy, is it true? Have you lowered yourself to carry the blood of an insect race?" Her eyes burned with fury. For days, for weeks, she had wrestled with this moment. Every part of her wanted to deny it, to lash out, to destroy the one who had shattered her perfect pride. And yet, when she opened her mouth, what came out was not denial. "It is true," she said, her voice sharp, steady. "And if you think this weakens me, then you know nothing of strength." Gasps echoed through the chamber. She stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the delegates. "I called humans insects. I called them fragile. But they are neither. They are fire wrapped in flesh. They are storm-born from struggle. And if one human can do this," she gestured toward the man beside her, fury flashing in her eyes, "then perhaps the galaxy is not ready for what they truly are." The hall fell into stunned silence. The human did not gloat. He did not smile. He simply stood there, his calm presence speaking louder than words. In that moment, the balance of power had shifted forever, not because he had won a fight, but because she had admitted the one thing she swore she never would. Her enemies scowled, realizing too late that mocking her now would only make them look blind. Her rivals, who had sharpened their claws to destroy her, hesitated. For if she, the proudest envoy of her empire, acknowledged humanity, then perhaps humanity was not weakness but destiny. And yet, even as she defended him, her fury boiled inside. She turned to him later, behind the closed doors of her chamber, her voice trembling with rage. "You have ruined me," she hissed. "You have taken my pride, my name, and turned them into your weapon. I should despise you more than anyone I have ever known." The human met her fury with quiet eyes. "Maybe, but you don't." Her breath caught. For a long moment, she could not speak. Her pride demanded hatred, but her heart whispered another truth. She slammed her hand against the wall, sparks of light flaring from her glowing skin. "I am furious," she shouted. "Furious at you, at this fate, at myself. But no matter how much I hate it," her voice dropped, lower, softer, dangerous, "I cannot change it. I cannot change you." He stepped closer, his voice calm, unshaken. "You don't have to. Change isn't about destroying what you were. It's about becoming something stronger than before." She turned away, her chest rising and falling. She would never admit it, Not aloud, not to him, not to anyone. But deep inside, she knew he was right. The arrogant alien diplomat, who once called humans insects, now carried proof of humanity's strength within her. Proof that could not be silenced. Proof that would ripple through the galaxy forever. She remained furious at fate, furious at herself, furious at him. And yet, she was changed forever. And as the stars outside the embassy window burned bright against the darkness, she whispered to herself words she swore she would never speak. Perhaps humans were never beneath us. Perhaps they were always the storm we never saw coming.